We're back with former prosecutor David Henderson and Devlin Barrett, just a reporter for the Washington Post. Devlin, pick up on things there because Trump has repeatedly said that this verdict is a scam. He continues to not deny any type of relationship or interaction with Stormy Daniels back in 2006, despite the testimony we heard on the stand from Stormy Daniels as well. You watch these proceedings day in, day out. What do you make so far of what we're seeing from the former president?
Look, I think that he is trying to come up with politically palatable explanations for a guilty verdict and a guilty on all counts verdict. He's sort of been pre-gaming this outcome for a while, saying that, the jury won't be fair, the judge won't be fair. But now he has a larger problem, which is that the verdict was guilty on all counts. So I think a lot of what he's doing is designed for his political audience. The fundamental problem he has is he's being squeezed. The political solution makes the legal problem worse. That's his basic problem. And so a lot of what he's saying, I was really struck by most of what he said at that post-verdict announcement is bad for his sentencing.
David, I want to talk about an appeals here and an appeals process, I should say. And specifically, first, I want to play for you Todd Blanche responding to the possibility and or likely how it will happen, an appeal.
You're confident on appeal?
Yes.
What's your number one issue? Don't give me a legal brief that you haven't written yet.
I think the recusal issue is meaningful. I think the statute of limitations, the way that the background of why this case was brought is meaningful. I think that the witnesses, I do not think Michael Cohen should ever be somebody who can be relied upon to convict somebody.
Does he have grounds for an appeal? Recusal and the statute of limitations, those things were both dealt with.
They're both dealt with, Yasmin. In a nutshell, will there be an appeal? Absolutely. The percentage is someplace north of 100%. At the same time, does he have a valid basis for an appeal? No. And let's pick up on Stormy Daniels as a good example as to why, because it all comes down to this. You're allowed to have a really bad trial strategy, which they did. A smart trial strategy would be to admit that you had sex with Stormy Daniels. Just stipulate to it. Then you can say, Judge, since we're stipulating, there's no reason to get into any details whatsoever about exactly what happened. And then once the prosecution establishes what her role was, before they call her as a witness, you can say, Judge, we've already stipulated, we established what happened with Stormy Daniels. No need for her to come to the stand except to sensationalize this trial. Instead, they got up an opening statement. They said that she was a liar. And then during the direct examination, they didn't object when certain details came up. And that's important because when they moved for mistrial, in light of some of the details she got into, Judge Masson said, look, when this came up, I was shocked that you didn't object, but you didn't object. You also opened the door to it all the way back beginning to your opening statement. And what he's effectively saying there is, this was your trial strategy, so don't come whining to me now that the fact that you're saying that it didn't work. And that's what appellate courts will look at. They'll also look at the fact that since he was sitting there and since he saw the pitch, he was in the best position to determine whether or not it was a ball, whether or not it was a strike. They're going to give great deference to him as the trial judge. And that's why I say they'll appeal, but I don't think they have a good grounds for appealing.
The New York Times also, David, reporting that an appeal will be kind of a referendum on Judge Juan Merchan. However, the judge has kind of closed off a lot of avenues for that appeal, full well knowing that they were going to appeal based on some of his actions inside that courtroom.
That's exactly right, Yasmin. And as a lawyer watching it, it's something that I think is easy to overlook, but it's amazing how regulated Judge Merchan was during this trial. To be frank with you, at times I thought he was too fair to Trump. And the reason I felt that way was because I found myself thinking, I've seen people get incarcerated during a trial for being disrespectful to the judge at the bench when the jury is not present. These outbursts that Trump had inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom, I thought to myself, he's going so far, it's unfair to everyone else who stands trial. But
so you think he should have been, you think he should have been incarcerated when he violated those gag orders?
In my heart, I felt that way, yes. But now that the jury has found him guilty, it sure does give Merchan a lot of ammunition to say I was balanced and more than fair with this man, and therefore it further limits his ability to appeal based on Merchan's conduct.
Devlin, what are you suspecting when it comes to post-sentencing? So we're looking at July 11th for sentencing. We don't have any idea what this sentence is going to actually look like. But he's a presumptive Republican nominee for president. Just a couple of days later, he will accept that nomination and make his way towards November. Are we looking at a sentence that is delayed based upon appeal? And then what if he wins the White House?
Look, all of these things are possible, which is why this is such a fascinating case to cover. You know, I'm not a politics reporter. I'm just a, a court rat, basically. And I got to tell you, we're in uncharted territory here. And so we're going to have to see how the judge views all this stuff. We're going to have to see how Trump responds. Remember that Trump said in his, post-verdict announcement, he just called America a fascist country.
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that basically dare a judge to give him some kind of punishment, incarceratory sentence. And so that is, a dangerous game, playing with fire. And we're going to have to see how these two things, the political world and the legal world, come to head with each other.
I'm sure, though, Devlin, Mershon understands that Trump was going to speak out after the sentencing. There's no way there was any expectations that Donald Trump was not going to be Donald Trump, or that he was not going to really be anybody who had just been found guilty on 34 counts of the falsification of business records who was in the public eye. And so how much he'll actually take that into account, I think, is really in question. Can you talk me through what we can expect from an actual sentencing? What would it look like if, even though we're not going to have, obviously, cameras inside the courtroom, what's it going to look like for our reporters that are going to be writing to us, standing outside the courtroom, telling us what it looks like?
Right. So you're going to have the prosecutors get up and say and ask for what sentence they want. I will tell you, just in sort of the brass tacks of this, I think it's a relatively safer path for them to just ask for some sort of incarceratory sentence, even if that's, weekends, even if that's, house arrest, which obviously some people would view as not being an actual incarceratory sentence. I think it's the easier path for prosecutors to push for that. And given everything that Trump's done, I think they can make a lot of good arguments for why they think that should be the case. Then you're going to have Trump's lawyers make their argument for why it shouldn't be an incarceratory sentence. And I assume they're going to also ask that whatever sentences hold, that it's essentially suspended pending the appeal. I think that's going to be a real key issue in all this.
Okay.
And then, and I think this is where the real rubber hits the road, they're going to offer Trump a chance to speak before his sentence. And that is really where I think, he could do tremendous damage to his chances of getting out of that room clean, so to speak. And, I don't want to predict the future. I don't think anyone can. But I think we can all make a guess as to what sorts of things Trump might say in that situation.
So there's a possibility that Mershon could be on the bench and have in mind what he's going to do. And Donald Trump could speak and he could change it.
It's always possible. I mean, I think most judges go into a sentencing, especially because they have pre-sentence reports, with a pretty strong idea of where they're going. But the reason you hold the hearing, sadly, I'm a Jets fan, and there's a famous Jets sentence that you play to win the games. The reason you hold the hearing is to determine the sentence. And things can happen at that hearing that change the sentence. And with Donald Trump, things can be pretty unexpected.
Devlin Barrett, thank you. David Henderson, thank you as well.